this is Ben Wheeler, the Mercenary King, ally of Imagineyourgoddess. I'm bringing you a Set 13 build for, Catastrophic Outbreak. This is the new Vanguard set, Chaos Breaker and all that jazz. But also some really cool stuff that I feel is overlooked in favor of, Chaos Breaker, Tetra Drive, and others who are legit cool. So on and so forth. This is a Zeal build, Zeal starter. This is a Gen 3 ride chain. Grade 1, top 7, choose either a grade 2 or a grade 3. You can whiff, so it's a dangerous thing, but it's still an 8K, which is nice. Let's talk about our triggers. Boom, heals, standard. I like this one, but I have 3 of these. And that makes me sad, because I really think this bastard's ugly. For these crits, 7 crits, pretty standard. I like the die landers better. Die battles better. And Justice Cobalt's cool. Really, these are just the triggers I had. I had more, I just didn't want to use them. I think I might change one to the Giant Eye, just because. This is what's going to be crazy to some people. 5 stand. There's some cards that let me draw if the opponent's Vanguard is 8 or lower. So in other words, every time you use Zeal's ability or Zero's ability, you are guaranteed that your Vanguard will be an 8K. Even if they're cross-ridden, they are dropping to 8K. That's fantastic. That's one of the reasons why this deck is strong. So what you do is you swing, they 5K, you stand it, 13K, they have to 10K it, and you get a draw card. Obviously, if they get a trigger, it ruins the effect. But who says you have to attack the Vanguard? Only because if it's over 13, you might as well just attack a rear guard. See if you can get a bit more minus out of them. Also, these are good because it gives plus 3K to what you put it into Soul, which can give you to anything, and it gives things. It's like a pressure point, I guess I'll describe it as. You put it in, you give something strategic like this. Let's say you're fighting 11K, bring him down by 5 because of Zero or whoever. All of a sudden, he becomes a 10K shield instead of just a 5K. That's fantastic. It's part of the winning image of the deck. But however, a lot of people can't stand that. 8 stand is just as with 4 draw is just as legit. I just like running something a bit more extreme with this deck. 4 perfect shields. I'll have 1 dimensional robo one because this deck used to be an Enigma and Rain deck, but just never worked, and I only needed 3 perfect shields. 2 Laurel. Why is Laurel good? He's good because he is the ultimate dimensional robo pressure, barring only Die Kaiser. If the Vanguard hits and you have 4 or more rear guards, and this includes Laurel, tap them, he stands up. The Vanguard stands up to attack again. So in other words, that is another twin drive. With the stands, that could get pretty intense. Enigma and Rain was the one I used it with. You do it, you'd have Miracle Beauties on the side. Miracle Beauty, if it stands as the back one. So you were constantly standing. But in theory, it's great. In practice, no. But hey, I'm not going to discourage you. It's pretty sweet. It's a pretty sweet budget deck, and I'll show you. Probably it'll show up someday. These 3 are 10K attackers if your opponent is 8K or less. 10K grade 1s, turn 1. Not reliant on any archetype. I'd run them in any deck. This Dimensional Robo, obviously. Actually, you could run it in any deck. That's fantastic. Obviously, Lord prevents a lot of this, but hey. What do you know? Lastly, Zeal grade 1s. Ride on this, search out grade 2 or grade 3 from top 7. It gets plus 1, turn it into an 8K. Defense in Vanguard goes like this. 8K, 10K, or 11K if you're running Brutal Jack or Genie Soldat or any number of others. Compass Lion. But that 11K is weird. I don't know how I feel about it sometimes. It's defense, but it's strange defense. And then 13K. I've seen hints of them. I've been moving to a 14K defense because there's a lot of cards that get plus 4K or plus 3k, turning him into 14k. A lot of the legions that's coming out and raging form, etc., have that ability. And I don't know, that's weird. I mean, sure, it turns into 7k into a 21k attack, but I like conspiracy theories. Also, when this rot is ridden over by the grade 2, minus 3k to your opponent. In other words, if your opponent has a 10k, he becomes a 7k. 7k is not defense at all. Good card, good booster, solid booster. 7k is now a solid booster. It's fantastic. Back in the day of set 4, 5, ride chains were just 6ks. Or they weren't as versatile as this guy was. And it was just dreadful. For these guys, if your opponent's Vanguard is 8k or less and it hits the Vanguard, you get a draw card. Pretty cool. It's a lot of pressure. People don't like to let it hit because it's a draw, but at the same time, it's, they still have to worry about that Vanguard, so they let it hit, which is a bad idea. Because I get card advantage. This deck does not do card advantage. It minuses your opponent heavily, but that's it. Limit break 4 plus 3k. If your opponent is minus 10k, which 11k Vanguards do get hit on a 0 Zeal turn, it suddenly turns into a 15k block, or even a 20k block, plus triggers 30k at most, and that's fantastic. It's at least 3 cards out of their hand, 2 cards if they perfect shield it, which means that they're not using a perfect shield in your Vanguard someday. Just a good card in this deck. Are there other cards you could pull in? Not ones that hit the numbers like you want them to. I could think of the 10k guy. Also cards that like give 2k or on hit give to plus 3k or something like that. Those just don't work enough. There's no real need to give plus power to anything. Kaiser is, I think, dimensional robo only. Dimensional robo. And other cards are, similarly restricted. So this is really I keep on blocking it with my hand. This is really the best choice for this deck. Lastly, for these, when it rides over the grade 2, minus 3k. When the grade 3 rides over this, minus 3k. This deck is set up for one winning image, but multiple ways to achieve it. The ride chain, fantastic. The waiting for Zeal, Zero, fantastic. Missing it, but still getting Zero, and then Zealing, fantastic. However, they preclude each other, and Zeal is the ultimate card in this evolution. So you have to be careful. You really have to be careful in choosing the route you want to go. I like playing the quirky decks. So here's the quirk. Well, it's already quirky. Three infinite saber. This isn't the quirky bit. I overshot myself. 3 original saber zeros. Break ride for dimensional police that isn't connected to the trial deck. When it's ridden, plus 10k to yourself, minus 5k to your opponent. All of a sudden, it turns Zeal into a 21k that's against a 1. That's 3 cards, or 2 cards for a perfect shield, 3 cards for a 2 pass. Actually, wait. To 10, to 20. Okay, yeah. And that's not even counting boosters. He works best in conjunction with others. Riding it over himself, sure, it gets off, this guy. But it doesn't really do enough by itself to really warrant continuously doing it. It's got a nice thing where it's boosted. It gets plus 3k. So even if you have Laurel, it's still going to hit 17, which is fantastic. That'll hit MLB, but there's only like one guy I know who plays MLB. One Die Kaiser. Why? Because Die Kaiser's hilarious as shit. It is, like, if you've ever fought Crazy Diamond, you understand the terror of Die Kaiser. Crazy Diamond is like 15 grade 3s. Kaiser is counterblast 1 plus 10k plus 1 crit. If it drive checks a grade 3, just nullify or cancel out a guard. In other words, a perfect shield, a 10k shield, anything. In one of the more recent episodes, yes, the most recent one still, where Kote fought the Shadow Paladin Witch user, he misplayed terrifically. Sure, he played it safe by putting it on Dayusha on the side, but if he had put everything on his Vanguard, he would have won. Out of hand. In fact, that was the only way he could have won, actually. So it's a misplay that was probably brought on to show how badass What's-Her-Face was, the Shadow Paladin Witch player. But it's got a cross break ride that has triplet drive. Triplet drive. Holy crap, that's terrifying. Because it's like, okay, grade 3, yeah, nullify guard. I've still got 2 more checks. Yeah. Anyway, it's there for shits and giggles. Like, it is sort of a weak link, because if you put it down there and they do it, like, sure, you can put on a Zeal, and all of a sudden they're down 5k. So what they do is they just throw out Perfect Shield and pray. Which is always fun. Which is always fun. This is a fun card because of its nature. However, I do not play this card if I've got like 3 grade 3s in hand, because that implies 5 grade 3s are going to be used up by the time it gets its ability off, and even if I do drive check them somehow, it's still not worth it, the risk to not get, like, Zero and Zeal is a better combo than, Zero, Kaiser, Zeal. Absolutely. This is better. But if there's, like, only these two, I've only seen these two, I'll do it. I'll just do it and laugh at them. Besides that, there's an extra counterblast that's running around in this deck that isn't used for anything, and it might as well be used for this. Now to get to the ace of the deck. Galactic Beast Zeal. When it rides to grade 2, which is the ability of the grade 2, minus 3k to your opponent, as long as the grade 1's in the soul. Plus 1k if the grade 2 is in the soul. Excuse me. It has Limit Break 4, Counterblast 2, choose an opponent's Vanguard. It gets minus 1k for every rearguard on the field. Now this deck, promotes conservative plays early for strong plays later. A couple times I've only kept the center column open, just to, prevent, like, Link Joker and all that jazz. Some retirers like Blaster Dark Revenger. Only to come back with this guy, break ride over 0, minus 10k to your opponent. Raging Form doesn't look so impressive when he's a 1. He's still terrifying, and you've still got to survive that turn. But at the same time, Shadow Paladin hand does not equal ability to place, does not equal field size. But at the same time, if they lose all the advantage they gain from the Twin Drive, as well as the fact that they have to replace their field, it starts to look pretty grim for them. Especially since implying that if they've already done Raging Form, they're at 4k and used up all their counterblasts. They'll have 1 counterblast left because they'll have to take 1 damage this turn. Or if they're, they've had draw triggers all day. Sure, they can block everything, but then they'll have no hand to replace their field. Even against the strongest cards, as long as this deck is doing its thing, it's anti-meta. CBD is not impressive if it can't get off its locks. EDD is not impressive if, if it has to spend the cards in hand to, replenish the field as well as discard for its ability. However, this still needs to get to that point. It's beaten very easily by stand decks, as well as a few other decks that are very aggressive. Mega Colony, for one, shuts down Laurel and shuts down a lot of boosters and other things that it relies on, as well as builds up hand advantage for the minus 10k turn. It can be countered, but it's hard to counter. And I think that it's still worth playing in tournament settings. Not obviously national tournament settings. But you know what? Let's face it, most people are not, there's national champion level players and then there's not national champion level players. And you might as well play, like for me, if I ever get to another tournament, I'm just going to play something fun. I might play this. I might just play Mega Colony. Just show up with a Mega Colony. Laugh at their faces. But the problem is Mega Colony cannot beat EDD, Raging Form, or CBD if the player is of greater or equal power to me. And that's just something I have to deal with. Also, there's the fact that, this isn't related to this, but Mega Colony, fighting EDD, I had enough guard if they got no trigger, and it's like, okay, I got 4th drive check, trigger, and it's like, aw. Anyway, they can't stand up against the restanders or lock. But this can, in the sense that it's all about the center column, but it's not like Yusha or Kaiser or any of the other ones, because there is nothing innate to this guy. He just messes with the other guy. And if you can build solid advantage around that, go for it. I think I've done pretty well, and I've done pretty decently testing. I have beaten the Revengers, I've beaten a couple others, but I've lost as many as I've won. Obviously there's some flaws in the deck. Maybe I need to put in draws, but I don't want to put in draws because I like having, something quirky, something fun like stands. Maybe I'll run rainbow triggers. Either way, find your balance. This is actually a really cheap deck. 0 isn't that expensive, or at least it wasn't when I bought it. It was like 7. Kaiser comes with a trial deck. There's a lot of things in the trial deck that are good for dimensional robos. And, it's worth picking up too. Because they've got Brave and a few others in there, which are good in just about every deck. I was actually thinking of a Goyusha one where a whole bunch of things just go into the soul for abilities. And just come out of it instantly for abilities, and it's fantastic. But it doesn't work that way. Sadly. Very sadly. But hey, this has been Wheeler, friend of Imagineyourgoddess, out.